Hey guys, what's going on? We're going to talk about the squat today. So we have a few variations I'm going to show you with the kettlebell, the dumbbell, and then a few body weight variations as well. So just to start with our basic squat, all right, we'll have those feet about hip width apart. We're going to drop the hips back and down, keeping the chest nice and high, and drive the knees apart. All right, so your weight should mostly be in those heels and mid-foot. You should be able to wiggle those toes around at all times. And again, I'm driving the knees open as I squat. All right, when I'm from a side angle, you can see my toes aren't coming past the knees. All right, I'm breaking parallel. And again, my chest is staying nice and high. So our standard squat here. Now, we have the goblet squat, which is traditionally done with the kettlebell. In your goblet squat, you're just holding that kettlebell in front of the chest, keeping the chest high still, making sure that we're not bending forward. Okay, so same motion, just keeping that chest high. Now, if we're going to do a dumbbell squat, okay, traditionally I have us hold it in front rack, all right, or maybe you're not sure what front rack means. Okay, it means we're loading the weight on the collarbone, the front of the body. So what I like to do is just rest it on the collarbone, lift the elbows up high, and just make a little shelf with my hands here. Same thing, it's just the placement of the weight. If you're doing a back rack dumbbell or kettlebell squat, you would hold it over the traps and do it like so. A little less core engagement here. Now, next we would have an overhead squat. So I'll show us first with no weight, and then I'll go on to show us with the weights. Okay, so overhead squat, we're going to keep the weight or our arms loaded overhead. So my arms are overhead. The key with the overhead squat is we want to make sure that those biceps stay in line with the ears and that we don't fold forward. Because when we load the weight overhead, or even just have our arms up, we typically tend to bend forward, okay? So a good way to test it is to do in front of a wall and see if you can engage properly, even with no weight, all right? So your overhead squat, arms overhead, weights overhead, keeping those biceps in line with the ears. If you were to do a single overhead squat, same concept. I'll keep that bicep just a little bit closer, all right, rather than taking a little bit of a wider grip. And I like to place the opposite hand on my core, reminding myself to pull the belly in. So we want to pull the belly in to make sure that we're staying engaged through the core. Okay, so single overhead squat. If you have a hard time doing an overhead squat just in front of the wall, start there before you grab weight. Okay. Now let's go on to all of our body weight variations. So we have jump squats. Okay, we have our wall squat as I showed. So standing directly in front of that wall, make sure the knees don't touch, nothing touches the wall as we sit back and down. And then last we have a sumo squat. So it's just taking your feet as wide as what's comfortable for you. Everybody's mobility is just a little bit different. So take those feet wide, all right? Toes can point out a little bit. You might also see like a Pele version of this where it's a really wide stance. All right, but whatever that is for you. And again, when we're doing it with or without weight, we want to make sure that we don't try to lean forward and touch to the floor. We just want to sink the hips down. Still driving the knees out, still keeping the chest high. Okay. If we focus on touching that bell, touching that dumbbell to the floor, all right, we'll start to do a sumo deadlift rather than a squat. Okay, so sumo squats, stance wide, feet out, driving the knees apart still, squeezing the glutes just a little bit.